It's one thing to build a cool AI demo that does something flashy, but how do you actually turn that into a complex, production-ready system, something you can actually trust? Well, that's one of the biggest challenges out there. And the answer isn't just about writing more code. It's about intentional, really smart design. Today, we're going to tear down the architecture of CognOS and see exactly how it's done.
And this quote right here, it just nails it. The way CognOS is structured isn't some happy accident. Nope. It was deliberately built this way, layer by layer, to solve the really hard problems, like making these massive AI systems understandable, controllable, and most importantly, reliable enough for the real world.
So, here's our game plan. Think of it like we're taking a tour of a skyscraper. First, we're going to look at the architect's blueprint. Then, we'll start our tour from the ground up. We'll check out the load-bearing foundation, then the utility infrastructure, and then the fancy penthouses at the top. And to finish, we'll step back and see why the whole structure stands so strong. All right, first up, the blueprint. This whole skyscraper idea is really the key. It's the mental model you need to get your head around how all the pieces of CognOS fit together to build something that's truly ready for production.
So here's how it all maps out. At the very bottom, you've got the foundation. This handles the most critical, can't mess it up part, governance. Then, the middle floors are like all the utilities, the plumbing, the wiring, DHVAC. That's the data flow, letting information move through the system. And way up top, that's where you find the specialized penthouse suites, where all the high-level intelligent work actually happens.
Okay, let's start our tour where every good building starts, at the very bottom, with the foundation. This is the core governance layer, and believe me, it is the absolute bedrock that makes everything else possible.
Now here's the thing you absolutely have to understand about core. It is the system's one and only point of entry. It's the ultimate bouncer at the door. Every single thing that happens, I mean everything, from an AI agent calling a tool to a person approving a task, it has to go through core. It gets checked for authorization, for budget, and it gets audited. There are no backdoors, no secret passages, period.
So how does core actually enforce all this? Well, it's pretty clever. Every single request has to go through this multi-step security gauntlet called the admission chain. Think of it like airport security for software operations. It checks your policy papers, makes sure your tools are available, checks for traffic jams with rate limits, looks at your budget, and can even stop everything for a final check by a human. Only if you pass all these gates do you get to proceed.
Yeah, I know, this stuff isn't flashy. It's the concrete and rebar of the system. It's totally unglamorous, but it is absolutely essential. This foundation is what takes CognOS from just another cool tech demo and turns it into a serious production-grade system that you can actually bet your business on.
All right, we've secured the foundation. Now we're heading up to the middle floors, the infrastructure layer. This is Dataflow, and you can think of it as the building's entire reactive, event-driven nervous system.
So Dataflow's job is to take all those individual operations that core just approved and weave them together into continuous, understandable streams of information. This is what makes the whole system feel alive and reactive. And, super importantly, it makes it explainable. You can actually watch how information moves and changes over time, which is huge.
And the magic behind this is a concept called frames. Just think of a frame as a universal shipping container for your data. It doesn't matter what's inside, a JSON file, a video, whatever. It all gets packed into a standard frame. And here's the real kicker. Every single frame has a standard header with all the metadata. That means you get provenance and auditability for every little piece of data in the system, baked right in. These frames then travel along what are called streams, and these are basically the arteries of CognOS. There are three main types. You've got event streams for governance and business events. You've got data streams for the raw facts and changes. And you've got view streams for things like query results. Each one is like a dedicated highway for a specific kind of information.
Okay, the foundation is solid. The data is flowing through the pipes. Time to take the elevator all the way up to the penthouses. This is the top layer, where the specialized intelligence modules live. This is where the really high-level capabilities come to life.
Now the modules up here on the top floor, they don't start from scratch. They plug directly into that Dataflow infrastructure we just looked at. They consume and build on top of it. We're going to look at the three main ones. There's the event fabric, the knowledge mesh, and agentic orchestration. Each one has a very specific, high-level job to do. And if you want a super simple way to remember their roles, just think of these three planes.
The event fabric is the signal plane. It's listening to all the incoming events. The knowledge mesh is the memory plane. It takes all that raw data and turns it into structured, grounded truth. And finally, agentic orchestration is the execution plane. That's the brain that actually coordinates and does the intelligent work. So signal, memory, and execution. Simple as that.
So we've toured the whole skyscraper, from the basement to the penthouse. Now let's step back outside and look at the whole thing. Why build it this way? Why does this specific layered architecture matter so much?
First off, core is universal. And think about what that really means. If you need to change a governance policy like a new budget limit or a new security rule, you change it in one place, and it applies everywhere, instantly. No exceptions, no gaps. That is incredibly powerful.
Second, that whole Dataflow layer is reusable. This is a huge deal for developers. If you want to build a new intelligent module, you don't have to waste time reinventing the wheel for how to handle streaming data. You just plug into the existing infrastructure. That means you can build new capabilities way, way faster.
Third, all those modules up in the penthouse are independent. The signal plane doesn't need to know how the memory plane works internally. They just talk to each other through those standard data streams. This means you can update one module or deploy a totally new one without breaking anything else. It makes the whole system incredibly flexible.
Fourth, the entire system is observable by its very nature. Because every single layer is spitting out these structured data frames and events, you get end-to-end traceability for free. It's not something you have to bolt on at the end. It's woven right into the fabric of the architecture from day one.
And finally, and this might be the most critical point of all, governance is enforced. It's not just suggested or recommended. Because that admission chain is down in the core, at the very bottom of the stack, it is structurally impossible to get around it. You literally can't bypass the policy or budget checks because the system just won't let the operation run.
So, look, if you take away just one thing from all this, let it be this simple mental model right here. Core asks the question, can I do this? That's all about safety. Dataflow asks, how does the data flow? That's all about reactivity. And the modules at the top answer, what does the system actually do? And that's the intelligence. Safety, reactivity, and intelligence. That's the stack.
So what you end up with is a blueprint for building AI systems that aren't just smart, but are also safe, observable, and genuinely ready for the real world. You build it from the inside out. First governance, then reactivity, and then intelligence on top. So the only question left is, what will you build on a foundation like that?